right, Council, we are live streaming now, so I will call the meeting to order. I'll remind everyone to please disclose of any pecuniary interest at the appropriate time. And we will go right to 4A, which is the minutes from the June 22nd meeting. Do we have, thank you, Councillor Morris.
Just a correction on spelling on, make sure I get this right, 7B, Wilcox is W-I-L-C-O-C-K-S.
Thank you for that correction. We will get that corrected. Any other comments or errors or omissions? Do we have a mover and a seconder to have those minutes received and filed? Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Morris. So those will be amended and filed then. Thank you. We will go to 6A, which is scheduled meetings and events. We do have a proposed scheduling of a special council meeting on Wednesday, September 2nd at 3 p.m. for presentation of an updated service delivery review. Do we have a mover and a seconder to that, or?
Is that on here?
White?
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
It's near the bottom. It's like right at the bottom in bold.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Does that date and time work for everybody? I'll give you a second, Wayne.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll make it work.
Okay. So that was moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we'll go down to councillors' commitments and items. Does anybody have any new commitments that they'd like to add to the calendar there? Seeing none, I will go right to councillors' items. Councillor Westgate, do you have anything for us today?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Councillor White.
Nope, I'm good. Nothing.
Councillor Morris.
Just one thing. I know Jackie probably got it, and I think Jerry did. An email from Mac Parker regarding waste management. And in that email, he's got that he has been heard or told that the depot where we dump our garbage is going to be restricted to Wednesday morning from 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Do we have any comment on that? Because I've never heard of it.
I'm going to turn it over to Amanda. I believe Mac was misinformed, but
Good.
I'll let Amanda talk.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. After also receiving that email from Mr. Parker, I did contact Waste Management and confirmed that they continue to operate their regular business hours and have no, well, I don't know if they have an intention to try to change, but they certainly can't because it is outlined in our community commitment agreement and as such would require an amendment to that agreement, which we would have to approve. And we've seen nothing to that effect. So they are operating their regular business hours and have reopened their Saturday morning hours.
Yeah.
As you know, they were offering alternate hours during the pandemic, but they are now resumed to regular operations.
Thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
Yes, I noticed that too, but I figured he was misinformed.
I just wanted to double check.
Did you have anything else today, Councillor?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, and Councillor Mitchell, do you have anything for us today?
Nothing today.
Okay, and I have nothing. So we've had a pretty calm couple of weeks. Just the only thing I had was just a happy Canada Day, a little late to everybody. We weren't able to get together for our normal barbecue that we do every year, which was unfortunate, but we did have a little bit of a virtual celebration, and I'm sure everybody had a chance to be with their families, so that's good. So we will move on to staff items. 8A, Amanda, an update on the farmland lease extension with Francis Layton Farms.
Thank you, Mayor Rumba. Following council's direction at our last council meeting, I did contact our leaseholder, Mr. Layton, to speak about an extension and the condition that council would like to put not to use biosolids or similar products on municipal land leased. He verbally has agreed to that condition, and I am I have just sent him an official sign off. So once I receive that, we'll be in a position to formally extend. Waste Management has also been notified, so we're just waiting for the paperwork all to be completed.
Okay, thank you. And we have no delegations or timed events at this time, so we'll go down to accounts and the GL report. Our treasurer is away right now, so if anyone has any questions on the GL report, I'm sure Amanda can answer those. If not, we'll need a motion to receive and file that report. Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And we'll go down to non-action correspondence. Was there anything anyone wanted to highlight from the non-action correspondence today? Councillor Westgate.
On the very last one, quantitative adjustment for Eastman's, that goes, I just wanted to get council's feeling on that before we go in that. That goes against our bylaws completely. And I'm sure, thought if we passed, if we give it, it would really create, it could create a mess for us because we'd be setting a precedence.
Okay.
Did anybody look at it?
I thought the same thing, Jerry, a little bit, but it was kind of a can of worms. If you open it, there's going to be a lot of other people looking the same direction, I'm afraid. I also looked at it and was kind of concerned a little bit about it was going to be a public meeting. Like, are we opening up the buildings now? Is that what we're doing?
We're going to self-distance.
That's fine.
And you have to announce and let Heather know before you can come to the meeting, like pre-register. And I think we can self-distance good enough for that.
Oh, I agree. It's just, I think, I know there's some people interested in some of the township buildings to have an event or something where they could use like the kitchen and have a patio area set up and self-distance. But I don't know whether we've opened the buildings up yet or not.
Well, our emergency management group has okayed this one.
Okay.
Amanda, would you like to add to any of that?
Just to that point, Councillor Morris and Councillor Westgate, yes, our emergency management group okayed it for this committee of adjustment. Given that it is municipal essential business, it doesn't fall within the closure regulations from the province. So our facilities do remain closed for all public access and rentals at this time.
Okay.
And just to highlight there, if anyone does wish to attend the meeting in person, it is mandatory that they register with the Secretary Treasurer by Monday, July 6th at 4:30. So it's not like anybody can just show up at the meeting and go in like normal procedure, because they want to make sure that they can keep the numbers down. So that is being highlighted. Back to Councillor Westgate's point, it is a committee of adjustments decision. I think it needs to be very clear to the committee on what is allowed and what isn't. How is this different from severing residential parcels with what we're doing going forward or what we've done in the past?
On this one, there's already a house severed off.
Oh.
Lot right beside it. So the new lot would be against our rules. The existing lot that it's severed from would be against our rules.
Do we even have the ability to do that? Because that's provincially mandated, is it not, Amanda? That you can only have one severance off?
Yes. Yes. So I know the planner has had pre-consultations with Mr. Eastman and expressed some concerns with the proposed location. I don't believe they've been able to connect again since this notice went out, but I do think that there are some options that are more compliance with the provincial policy statement, including perhaps a single farm severance off of the adjacent farm. So I think there's maybe been a mistake in the application for this one, if it doesn't help. So
Okay. That's good, because I was hoping staff told them that one like this would not likely go through.
yes, I believe Mr. Eastman was informed, and I do know our planner has tried to follow up to suggest an alternate course, but has not been successful before this hearing. So I think the hearing will be good for the applicant to gain a better sense of what the ability of the committee is, where the provincial policy statement limits are, and maybe identify some alternatives that the committee may be more in agreement with. And I believe the planner's report just came out, and it is available online to anyone viewing who wishes to see this agenda. It's also available on our website, and the meeting can be, all the meeting materials can be accessed there as well.
Okay. I think we can trust our Committee of Adjustment members to make a reasonable decision based on what is allowed and what is not allowed. So any other questions about are you good with that, Councillor Westgate?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions about our non-action correspondence? Councillor Morris.
Well, there was one also I noticed a meeting about they wanted to build a new broiler barn, and they were supposed to be like a long ways away, and they're only going to be 25 or something. Like, what are we still considering in the minor variance? What is minor?
Yes,
Like, it just seems like, geez, 25 feet isn't much if you're supposed to be. I can't remember the exact numbers now. I think it was.
I think it was 100 and some feet or 200 and some feet and 25 feet.
Yeah, that's a little more than minor.
It's actually changed. A new MSDS was done for it, and it's only 31 feet. So he needs 31 feet, and he's asking for 25.
Oh, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification, Heather.
It is on the website too, that MSDS report, if anyone wants to read it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about the non-action correspondence? All right, we do need a motion to receive and file the remainder, moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We only have one item on the action correspondence. How does council want to deal with that? Do we have a motion to receive and file that? Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Moving on to staff reports. The first one is our biannual fire report. Do we have either one of our chiefs with us today? No. Okay. The recommendation is that the report be reviewed and filed for information. Did anyone have any questions that perhaps the staff that is with us could answer? All right, and we do need a motion to receive and file that. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That is carried. Going on to the current municipal service levels and COVID-19 impacts. Another great report, Amanda. I really appreciate those. And as I'm sure the rest of council does, it keeps us up to date on everything that's going on. Does anyone have any questions? Going back to it does say that the emergency control group has approved the cancellation of all July rentals. If for whatever reason, the current order is, I believe, July 10th is the state of emergency. If the province decides to lift that state of emergency on July 10th and open things up further, can we contact the renters again and give them the opportunity to rent? Or how are we going to be phasing back in once our facilities are open?
Mayor Rumbus, that's a great question. I think it's one the emergency committee will need to consider as part of their reopening plans and the timeline. So, and as we know, just while we strive to be ready for reopening announcements from the province, sometimes the timelines are challenging. So if they announce, say on a Friday, that we're able to reopen on Monday, that doesn't necessarily mean that we'll be able to accommodate that. So right now, Teresa primarily is working on proactively identifying areas where the stage 3 reopening is anticipated to affect and the steps that we need to take to address that. But I think we'd have to deal based on the timeline, the timeline until August, all the procedures we have to have in place.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Amanda on that report? Okay, we just need a motion to receive and file that. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Westgate, all in favor. That is carried. And back to our lovely Lambton Shores Fire Agreement, which is always a fun and contentious issue. There are 2 recommendations on that report. Does council have any questions?
Do you think if we open it up, we'll lose instead of gain?
We've never had a lot of success that I remember in the past
No.
with these folks as being common sense. This has been going on a long time.
Certainly there is a long history. However, the climate has changed. We have a new council that we're dealing with Lambton Shores. We haven't dealt with this issue with this new council, as well as the fact that they have a new fire chief that is ahead of their whole operations. So you never know. I think it's reasonable to go in with the staff recommendations and see what happens.
I'll move the recommendation. I'd love to give another kick at this can.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Councillor White. Do we have a seconder to
I
that?
second it.
Councillor Morris? Any other questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried, so we will see what happens with that. Going on to D, which is the wastewater and service delivery agreement. That was a very in-depth report on that, and there is a recommendation there. How does council want to deal with that recommendation? Councillor Morris?
I make a recommendation to approve what you're planning on doing.
You want to move the recommendation as
Yes,
written?
please.
Okay, and do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Westgate? Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried.
I thought that would be different.
You never know. I think the report was very well done and it really went into all the details about that situation, and it made a lot of sense to.
I guess the last time it was tough getting council to go for this again, but I think it's the best way to go.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
We know what we're dealing with here.
Councillor Mitchell, did you have any questions on the water and wastewater service delivery agreement? It's already been moved and seconded.
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam
All in
Mayor.
favor of that then? That is carried. All right, we are going on to E, which is the municipal comparator selection pay standard study. There is a recommendation there as well. Councillor Morris.
I would like to see Plimpton and Brook in this comparison, somebody that's in, you know, our two closest neighbors in this comparison study. And the final recommendation about compensation analysis and close the gaps were indicated. Could you explain what you mean by that, please?
Amanda, would you like to?
So this isn't my recommendation. I just want to clarify that this was included in the service delivery review report that is still draft at this stage, but this study was budgeted as a result of that draft report for 2020. And I believe, well, I'm hesitant to speak for the consultant, but I do believe that when they conducted a preliminary analysis of our pay standards in comparison to the market, that there were some gaps identified with certain positions in certain areas within the organization, which is why we are undertaking the study to, you know, further review and study that and compare our operation to the market.
Can you speak to which municipalities they chose as comparators?
Sure. So as outlined in the report, they completed a review of the financial information return data and under three parameters to identify the most comparable options for Warwick Township, and Brook Galveston and Plimpton, Wyoming, based on FIR data, were not found to be as comparable as these organizations based on their population, employees, and total expenses and their annual budget. So that's why they're not included. That being said, if council wants to make edits, of course, you have the ability to do that, but the preliminary data suggests that they wouldn't be as comparable as these areas.
Questions?
I don't know, Trevor, I sorry to put you on the spot here, but I do know Trevor assisted and did also a review of this data if he has any additional comments on the proposed comparators. Oh, you're
Trevor,
on mute.
you are muted.
Sorry, I came off mute. The one neighboring municipality is fine in terms of capital, but their operating budget is significantly more, and the other neighboring municipality just isn't in the same ballpark anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's just when our residents look at numbers and costs, they don't see the township of Castleman. They see Brook, they see Plimpton. I just wondered if maybe it's like, I do see Point Edward in there, which is like good.
Adelaide Metro is right beside us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adelaide
At least
Metro.
there's somebody.
So I think that's also based, Councillor Morris, on the annual budget delivery of services, right? Is different between us and our neighbors, and yeah, that's fine.
So this information that they're gathering where the gaps are will come back to us before any action is taken?
Absolutely. So what happens with this study is the consultant, if these comparators are reviewed, the consultant will then conduct the survey with each one of these municipalities, compare all the data, all the job descriptions, and compile a comparison chart of all the results for each position within each municipality. They'll identify, you know, where the average is, where any identified gaps or discrepancies are. Sometimes job descriptions can explain discrepancies between municipalities, right? Different organizational structures, and they'll compile a report with recommendations for council
Okay,
for
I'm
consideration.
satisfied.
The service levels too, there's a big difference in the employees, like from the bottom to the top, that's 3 times more, right? There must be quite a difference in service levels or something there to get that.
There may be, yes, Councillor Westgate. We may find that in some of the smaller municipalities, they have more contracted services and there won't be as many comparable positions as opposed to the ones on the high end. So the consultant does look also at the whole organizational structure when they're doing comparisons and the job descriptions and service delivery models. So yes, there is a variance, but we need some data points to be able to explain kind of why or why not.
Okay,
Sheriff.
any other questions about that report? And how does council want to deal with the recommendation?
I'll move it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Morris? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We are going to go on to committee and other minutes. So we do have the minutes of the Public Works Committee meeting of June 24th. Do we have a mover and a seconder to those minutes? Moved by Councillor Morris, seconded by Councillor White. Any questions or comments, errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving and filing those minutes? That is carried. Council, we're getting better at this. We are moving on to the closed meeting session of this meeting, so that for our loyal viewers, just to let you know that we will be coming back into open session briefly just to close out the meeting after the closed meeting portion. So we will not be going back on live on YouTube. So we appreciate and everyone who has watched. And we do need a mover and a seconder to go into the in-camera session. Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor White, all in favor. That is carried. So Amanda will let us know